Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth, everyone. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. Look at that smiling face. Those of you listening to the audio don't see that, but you can check out the video. Bill, I really enjoyed our last episode, and we really teased what we're going to talk about this episode, and I really like it. We talked about messaging and missed opportunities, especially in the context of, obviously, our political climate with the impeachment proceedings. The Democrats and the Republicans each have been missing opportunities and could do a better job with what they're trying to communicate. And I'm looking forward to having that discussion and illuminating that for our listeners today.
Yeah, Tom, I'm really glad you're asking about the missed opportunities, because many times the way human beings do is that they're thinking on top of the other person's speaking. So what happens is they're listening to the question, and regrettably, they're racing for the answer to that question instead of racing towards creating connection with the speaker. So that little nuance is, I don't know, worth, $250,000, is that if you race towards the answer, you'll get one answer. If you race towards connection with the speaker, you resonate with the entire crowd or the entire audience. So what does racing towards connection look like? Well, it looks like when somebody is speaking, it'll start sounding like, Tom, I'm guessing you're curious about the number of missed messages that both the Democrats and the Republicans have missed. And wouldn't it be great, Tom, if we had that right in front of everybody? Isn't that right?
Yes.
So now I've connected to the listener because he knows that I listened to what he just said. I wasn't just waiting for my opportunity to talk. Now, all of us can take a breath right now and go like, oh my gosh, am I just waiting for my opportunity to talk? Am I waiting for my opportunity to get my point in? All the debates are failing miserably here. Miserably.
They're not real debates, are they? I mean, the way I learned to debate in high school or something, they're not doing that.
No, they're not.
It's really a question and answer session, really.
Yeah,
right?
It really is. It's, that's the problem with it is that you're not extracting from what most of them are not extracting from what the last speaker just said and drafting off of what the person just said. It's just like driving down the freeway behind another car or a semi, and they're cutting the wind away from you, and you're just in their draft. You're sitting behind them. Or what bicyclists do, what racers do, is that they drive and there's somebody behind them, and they're all tight packed because you don't have as much drag when against the wind. Well, it's the same thing in a debate, and it's the same thing when you're being interviewed on CNN or whatever, or MSNBC. You got to draft off what the person in front of you is saying instead of just push, because that's called the push narrative. All of them are pushing language instead of drawing it to them.
Boy, they really are. You're right, because they'll be asked a question and they don't directly answer it. They quickly pivot to whatever it is they wanted to say, their talking point, and really avoid the question.
Yeah, because some of the questions, especially with reporters, they're pursuing facts too early instead of building the connection with the speaker. And here's the problem, is that if you want a greater truth, and even to get the speaker not to lie anymore, the quickest way to not to get them lie anymore is pull the lie towards you, not push against the lie. You don't want to push against the lie. Tom,
well, let's take an example here. Yeah,
let's do an example. Okay, here's a great example. Your daughter has some ice cream and sneaks into the refrigerator and gets herself some ice cream.
Okay.
Yeah, you ask her, hey, did you get some ice cream? She says, no, I didn't. Now, you ask her the question, is a yes or no answer. Well, she ain't going to say, yes, please forgive me for the errors of my way. And now you're going to punish me because I had the ice cream. And it's better to tell the truth, because I'm not going to be embarrassed or punished by the truth. I'm actually going to get punished by the truth. And it's better for me as a child to become defensive and literally say, I didn't do that. Now, if you think about the way where all it has literally turned the press and the media apparatus and even the Democrats into parents that are trying to get their child to admit to stealing ice cream.
Wow. And their knee-jerk instinct is never to admit that.
Defensiveness, criticism, contempt, withdraw. They're literally using the 4 horsemen of a relationship apocalypse in real time. I'm watching it and going like, these are really poor communicators, because the Republicans don't even know how to get out of the corner they're in. They don't even know how to get out and get an off ramp and start creating some off ramps, because they've got to get an off ramp sooner or later. They cannot come to a screeching halt, because the screeching halt costs and will cost them, 5, 10, 15 years if they keep in this thing. They've got to get an off ramp. They cannot put all of their bets on Trump winning. They cannot do that. If they do it, the wave next time will be catastrophic.
It'll be like a tsunami, won't it?
It'll be catastrophic for them. It's like, if they don't get an off ramp, see, they might lose a couple seats in the Senate, and all of a sudden it's very uncomfortable because they won't have enough votes to get anything done, and they'll still, they won't have any ability to block things, so they can only block things from the minority position. So the struggle is that none of them are observing the truth. The truth is, these language strategies and these mindset strategies only create a short-term compliance. They do not. They win the battle, they lose the war. So they're winning the battles, but the cost is too many weapons, too many bullets, too much ammunition, too much. So they're spending all their ammunition off of, oh my gosh, the sex of a dog. You're going to spend money. You're going to spend truth on sex of a dog, because the dog came out. Trump came out and introduced the dog.
Oh,
and he said it was a boy. And later on, we found out it was a girl. But then somebody else said it was a boy. But later on, the White House says it's a girl. Excuse me, could you just look between the damn dog's leg and give us the truth?
Oh my goodness.
I'm going like, how many? Don't you know how to look to see if it's a dog or a girl? Do we have to operate on the dog to find out if it's really a girl or a boy dog, just to protect Trump's initial truth?
Oh my
or his
goodness.
initial perspective? Do we really need to fight the battle of, whether or not the hurricane is going to hit Alabama? See, yeah, it is. I'm going to draw it with a Sharpie. Why are you fighting that battle?
Amazing to me that somehow this is a character flaw to admit that you were wrong, that it was a girl dog and not a boy dog. I'm sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so let's complete the example on the ice cream, though. What would you what would be a way to ask your daughter if she in fact did eat the ice cream in a way that would help the truth to come out?
Well, I want to create an internal emotion inside the person that's speaking to let them know it's safe. And it's a little uncomfortable, but it's not catastrophic. So it's first you tell them back what they just said to you. Oh, so you would like me to hear that you didn't have the ice cream. I feel curious about what might have happened to the ice cream because ice cream really tastes good. Don't you think ice cream tastes good? Yes.
Oh
Why? She
my
just ate the damn thing.
oh my goodness. So getting them to say yes to something that they can agree to that's in fact true.
Yeah, it's true that ice cream tastes good. Doesn't mean you ate it yet. It doesn't mean you snuck into it yet. You don't have to admit to those two things. You just have to admit to something that's safe that you can agree upon. Yeah, so the ice cream's great. Yes, yes, it's very tasty. Gosh, it's I really like ice cream. I was looking forward to have ice cream after dinner, but it doesn't sound like we have ice cream now. Huh. Gosh, I wonder how we can solve the problem of getting ice cream after dinner. All of a sudden I'm thinking ice cream after dinner. I'm not thinking about whether or not they took ice cream out of their face. I am not interested in truth early. I'm interested in getting them out of guilt, shame, blame, labels, criticism. I don't want them in that space. So I got to build connection with the speaker or the listener. So now I got a shot at it. Now it's like, so I might say to the person, to the kid, um, in real time, I'd say, I'm guessing that it might not be safe to tell each other the truth from time to time. I'll work myself around to this one. For the truth from time to time, what can I say or do to make sure that it's okay, it's safe for you to tell me both good things and bad things? Is it okay if we can have an agreement about making it safe to tell things that don't go well and things that do go well? Now, the person now thinks that that's a possibility, that I am not going to overreact to the bad thing. Their limbic brain, their safekeeping brain, does not have to do fight, flight, or freeze right now. It doesn't. Because I asked them, how can we make it safe so truth can be asked, whether it's good truth or bad truth? Can we make that safe, that concept safe?
Wow. There's a revelation. I mean, I need to try this with my 10-year-old because quite honestly,
Yes.
I have trained or I am training in the process of training my children to understand that if they don't tell the truth and I find out later that they didn't tell me the truth early in the process, that the consequences will be greater.
Yeah, they'll just dig in more.
And this may be counterproductive, right? What we do
That's
try to
right.
tell them that you want to tell me the truth sooner rather than later, because if you tell it later, the consequences will be more grave.
Yeah, you
And
just
while
put a monster under the bed is what you basically did there.
I didn't want to put a monster under the bed, though, Bill. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay,
Yeah,
so
or
you're
the
saying
closet or
you have a
whatever.
different approach, which is make it be a safe space to tell something that
I might not like.
you don't like as well as something that you like. Okay.
Yeah. So for example, my son Aiden, through his high school years, 14, 15, 16, and now 17, through his high school years, he would report to me the people in here's the group that uses drugs, but I don't use drugs. And in other words, aren't you glad I don't drink? I'm going like, well, I feel delighted that you care for your body. See, I have him focus on caring for his body, not well, from time to time you might drink, but you'll let me know when that happens, right? Yeah, sure, Dad. Because you're not going to judge, or you really make it safe for me to figure out how the world works. I go, yeah, I kind of do, don't I? Yeah, it's really good that I make it safe. He's going like, Yeah, none of my friends, they're terrified of their parents. Of course they're terrified of their parents. So they hide and sneak around their parents because they're still doing the same damn ice cream thing. You know, they're going around the thing. And and this is when someone is trying to take advantage or somebody is afraid of somebody saying no, it makes it really difficult to have a strong relationship. So when we look at truth in reference to like the hearings and the public servants and the level of integrity that they hold, the level of this is the rule of law that they do, the where loyalty ends, because that's a big part of it is loyalty has got to end somewhere. And if you don't, if loyalty goes all the way through, then you're the servant and that other person's the king. And that actually happened. The judge actually said that in the McGahn trial, I believe.
Yeah, the McGahn subpoena that was brought into the courts is that judge came out just recently and said Trump is not a king.
Trump is not a king. Therefore, the people do not have to be loyal. Therefore, he has to testify.
Well, boy, the judge really is providing a potential off ramp there, aren't they? Because Trump holds loyalty like way up here, like not only capital L, I'm talking like bold, largest font size possible.
Ahead of the law, ahead of the law,
yes,
ahead of the law. So that's where the mobs get into trouble. See, that's where the mob gets into trouble because loyalty is higher than respect for life, truth, integrity, stuff like they put loyalty at the top. Once you see, all of us are shifting our needs back and forth and putting them in different orders. Where truth takes place is observing it and then just speaking right at it, like you and I are doing. We're just speaking right at it. Go like, yeah, that's one way to put loyalty up there, but you can't sustain it at the top of the list because then it's at the expense of everybody else around you, and then eventually it crumbles because.
Well, we saw in the impeachment hearings that the House of Representatives had, the Republicans really in lockstep for loyalty ahead of country. It appeared to me, loyalty to party, loyalty to Trump ahead of maybe even party, and then certainly, America and the Constitution, where I mean, this is really what we saw, right? And I think it would be helpful to talk about some of that communication and how is there a way they could have tried to argue their points in a more effective way and not be so transparent, loyalty above everything else, where they sort of preserve something of themselves.
That's a great example of a missed opportunity right there. All that would have happened or still could happen is Adam Schiff turn over to Devin
Nunes,
Nunes, and say, listen, we've got to figure out a way for the Republicans to get an off ramp here. Would you be willing to support me with that? Now, all of a sudden, Nunes' eyes will get big. Listen, I hear that what you're advocating to the Republicans and the loyalty of the president. But right now, we've got to work on the integrity of the law. Do you want to continue to put loyalty ahead of integrity? I'd like to know if you still like to do that, or would you like an off ramp right now? Now, all of a sudden, he's going like, I don't know how to get an off ramp. Listen, respect and integrity. I will give you respect and integrity right now. If you can help me support and the Republicans having an off ramp right now so we can start working together. It would be like you're calling the limited mindset into it. They will be bewildered, but what also happens is it radiates through the rest of the Republican Party, and any listener that is a Republican and saying, I'm letting go of loyalty, I'm applying for integrity and respect. Thank you very much. This is what respect for the law looks like. This is what integrity with our word looks like. As Republican now, and as a Republican voter, I have an off ramp. I then say to myself as a voter, because you got to give the voter the off ramp too, which is I got to be able to vote for a Democrat and still feel good about what I voted for. And if I'm voting for respect or voting for integrity in this instant to wipe this group out, the people that are not in that vibration, then next cycle I can vote for the guy that comes up that still has more values that I have, but he's my guy because I like the conservative value sets. I don't like the liberal value sets as much, but in this case, I'm voting for respect for America, integrity for America. I'm voting for loyalty for public servants. I'm not voting for loyalty to the party or just the name Republican, or I'm not voting for loyalty towards my vote, because that's actually taking place right now too. I voted, I'm loyal. It's like, what?
Wow, Bill, you took that a direction I didn't expect you to go, which is wonderful. That's what I love about doing this with you, because I'm still learning too, right?
Isn't it fun?
It is a lot of fun, because I expected when we set this up, missed opportunities, right? And what message would help the Democrats make their case for impeachment stronger. I thought you might role play and talk about a message that the Democrats would just say within their own, way that they talk about things, that would sort of on their own side land better. But that isn't what happened. You actually went and gave a suggestion to what Adam Schiff could have said, which was giving empathy to the Republicans and their need for appearing loyal and their need for, explaining to their constituents why they're going to do something other than be completely loyal to the president. Which maybe I should have realized that's what you're going to do. I don't know, but
no. There's two sides of it. You got the both sides of it. But can you just imagine any of the Democrats just give them some oxygen over there so they can have an off ramp?
Well, because they all seem to be talking past each other, aren't they?
They're suffocating.
They're each, when it's their turn to have the microphone, they say, what they want to, their talking point, their belief, and there is not an empathetic statement going on anywhere that is going to actually build a bridge between their side and the other side. All they're trying to do is try and proportionalize their side so much more to try to bring awareness and public opinion on their side enough that it's going to tip the scale. But
Correct.
That seems to be a much taller hill to climb, is it not?
Well, the way they're doing it, they're just trying to see who can race up the hill and throw rocks at each other on the way up. And instead of going like, hey, listen, I happen to have a rope and let me see if I can get your ass out of here.
So let me bring you up with me. Can we?
Up with me? Listen. Literally any one of the Democrats could go, Mr. Nunes, and then the council person and the other
or
person,
Jim Jordan or whoever.
Jordan. Listen, I get what you're doing with loyalty here, and I really appreciate how you're supporting and advocating for the president. And I'm guessing that it's one of the greatest advocacies that you're looking to do, because you're really advocating for your party, and I really appreciate that, because that's one of the things that a two-party system does, is create the advocacy for both sides. And at the same time, the loyalty towards that mindset, in having the need for respect for the law or integrity with the law, the need for loyalty can't go above those things. So would you be willing to join me over here to restore law and the integrity with the law versus doing the advocacy piece that you're doing, and you can still do the advocacy piece that you like to do, but I'd like to do it and at the same time as meeting the letter of the law the way the Constitution wrote. Would you be willing to help me with the way the Constitution was written?
Wow, it seems like you then just created a safe space for them to align themselves with the law and not have this as big of a burning need to stay completely loyal.
Yeah, you don't have to do, kingship loyalty, burn the bridges, take everybody down with us. It's like, no, you want to stay with your advocacy. I can appreciate that. But right now, what we're going to be working on is integrity with the law and respect. And I want to know if you can help me with those two words. Can you help me with integrity with the law, following the letter, the way the Constitution's written? And notice how light I'm doing it, by the way. I'm keeping it very light, going like and inviting us, say, yeah, I get what you're doing over there. And I'm just going to take some time. And in fact, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a minute of my time. Mr. Nunes, would you be willing to respond to that? Now, all of a sudden, I just gave him a minute. Now, all of a sudden, he's like, what am I going to say in this minute? Because now all of a sudden I got him to the ridge.
It's like an olive branch, really, isn't it?
Yeah, olive branch. Then all of a sudden, if he says bullshit or whatever he says next, if he goes down the party line, he says, well, I guess you're not ready to give up loyalty the way you're doing loyalty, and you're not willing to at this moment to put integrity of the law and respect for the law ahead of loyalty. So let's continue. And then he pivots.
Whoa.
Now all of a sudden that guy's out on the plank and he's in big trouble, because all of a sudden he's going like, what the hell just happened to me?
Well, because if he continues on his path, he's showing the world on this stage that he puts loyalty above the law without him saying anything about
Nothing about
okay.
it. All right.
Well, that's very exciting. I appreciate that. Well, then Adam Schiff or whoever is going to do this needs to get some skill and do this. All right. So let's do the other side of it. What would have helped the Republicans defend a position more and stay closer to integrity? I mean, what position would they be defending? Because really what they're trying, or it seems that what they were all trying to say is, well, unless the president said, I'm bribing you, it's not bribery. Or unless the president said specifically, I'm not giving you this money until you give me the investigation. Unless he said it that plainly, or unless they had him, an audio recording of him saying it, they're trying to say the president's actions are not in alignment with impeachment.
Yeah, they're in trouble a little bit about they're really in trouble about the struggle that they're having right now, is that the president's mindset is not set up for collaboration. I think I might have talked about this last time. It's the mindset of a solipsis, which is somebody's who's it's a psychological term that they're like the center of the earth. They are the center of the earth. They're the me in this planet, and everybody else rotates around them. So they're in that mindset. And regrettably, because Trump is in that space, all of the strategies and things that he has done in his life have, here it comes, in quotation marks, worked. Even though the battlefield is scattered with failures, it hasn't really impacted him. It hasn't taken away his respect the way he sees it. It hasn't, he had so much money to lose that it didn't matter anyways how much money he lost. He was a different type of gambler. He gambled with other people's goodwill. That's the way he gambles, is to get a hit off of getting them to agree to something and then taking more from them even after they've agreed to it. It's, I mean, Cohn, his attorney, said it very well. He goes, "Hey, listen, you start giving and you start giving. This guy just doesn't stop taking. And my life, my career, my everything, and I'm going to jail for it. And I'm really glad I'm going to jail. He is. He's glad. He's glad he doesn't have to do this.
That's his off ramp, as painful as it is.
The painful off ramp. He's going like, listen, you guys have got to take the painful off ramp. Go early, he's saying, because I've been doing this for the last 10 years, and I have felt crappy about myself. I brought this along my family. My kids are going to have to live with this throughout their whole life.
So let's take a talking point that maybe we can latch onto a little more here that the Republicans did in the hearings, which was that the Ukrainians got the aid. They got the aid. So there's no tit for tat. There's no quid pro quo. They got the aid. How can they argue that point and try to stay closer to integrity if you're helping them craft their message?
If I was helping the Republicans craft the message, I probably would have said the sentence, "They got their aid." I would have said, and it would have never came out because they would have had to fall on the integrity sword. Yes, we started listening to the president's guidance, but then upon realizing that it had crossed the integrity and the respect for the law, we then freed up the money. Then the Republicans could have had their off ramp. Trump would have been dangling in the wind a little bit, but that's okay because they eventually need their off ramp. See, they keep building the ramp up, and the fall is going to be greater if they keep doing it. They got to design an off ramp because there's a casualty and something that is going to come right now out of this experience.
Well, so is there no way for them to stay in alignment with loyalty to Trump and make the kind of argument you did? Because what you just said, it would seem to me they'd have to be in that safe space or be comfortable with not putting loyalty up so high in order to do what you just did. Is that right?
That's correct. They've got to really be careful. See, each one of his aides are creating their own mini off ramps. Mulvaney, by confessing, created his little mini off ramp
where he says, "Get over it. We do this all the time."
Get over it. We do this all the time, because he then can say, "Get over it. We've done this all the time." Yes, I was following orders. And on retrospect, that was not a good thing to do. It's like so he gets an off ramp because he's showing a crack, and Sondland just straight out just said, "Yeah, it was quid pro quo, and everybody knew about it. And my off ramp is straight honesty and with confidence and a little bit of arrogance, but straight confidence that, yeah, the truth is we did do quid pro quo, and the missed opportunities that both the Democrats and the Republicans missed at that moment when he was full confession is they to say, Mr. Sondland, are you in touch with the gravity of what you just said? One person needed to say that. One person.
It would have made it much more.
Mr. Sondland, when I'm hearing the tone of your voice, do you understand the gravity of what you just said? And that you, as a political appointee, have crossed an integrity line of America that has cost us. Would you be willing to tell me what you've heard me say? Now, that's not an answer. That's a listening. I just said, listen, buddy, tell me what you just heard me say. Don't give me any bullshit about the good reasons why you said or did what you did. Bring forward right now the cost to America by what you just did, that you were participating in. Now, if he wanted to say, well, I was just trying to manage and do what the president did. Oh, So you allowed a person that was doing something wrong to continue doing it just to meet his need for respect at the expense of America's need for respect? Is that what you're telling us?
Wow, Bill.
Those are missed opportunities.
That's a huge missed opportunity. And my goodness, what a different impression that would have made on the American people had anybody had the presence of mind to shine a light on that aspect of what he said.
So here's the trick. Here's one trick, Tom, and anybody that's listened to this, just please get a hold of this trick, write it down. Whenever you're going into a situation, and I'm thinking of one myself right now. Whenever you're going to a situation, one of the things I do to prepare for those difficult situations is I prepare two narratives that I am locked and loaded in going into that meeting. Here's the two narrative. What is the worst thing that that person can say or do during this mediation or during this conflict? And what are the best things that person can say or do during this thing? What is the worst thing and what is the best thing? So my preparation meeting is all built around what's the worst thing the person can say and build my narrative around that. And what is the best thing that they can say and build my narrative on that. Both the Democrats and the Republicans did not do that exercise before they interviewed Sondland. They did not. And the reason why is because the Republicans would have been ready for him to confess if they would have did that exercise. They would say, if he confesses full time, we need to turn on him and hang him out to dry right then and there.
And make it be him and not the president, right?
That's right. Because I swear, all they had to do was just turn on him right then. So, Mr. Sondland, are you saying that you knew about this? Was it initially your idea for the quid pro quo? By the way, there's a video evidence that it was his idea, but that's a whole nother situation, another point. There's a piece where he says, in government, I do quid pro quos all the time. I make deals with so-and-so and so-and-so. I mean,
I remember you told me about that when we were, another time we were not recording, and I have the link to that video, which I'll put in the blog post for those of you that are interested, so you can go check it out.
So what happens is that it's his idea, and Trump, being the character that he is whoever is around him. This is the solipsis idea. He's in the center world, and all of a sudden somebody comes by in his orbit and tells him a message. He says, "Oh, that's a good idea," and he takes that. He goes, "Oh, why don't I just do it this way?" He's a pretty smart, millionaire, and he gave me $1 million. I'll take his idea.
So when we, and those of us that watched the hearings live or saw it on the news, there was a moment where Sondland says, was there a quid pro quo? And this is in his opening statement. And he says, yes, there was. And you saw Devin Nunes and the minority council sort of sink back in their chairs a little bit, and the expression on their face, it's almost like blood drained out of their faces. You could see they're like
so not ready.
They're like, oh shit, what am I gonna do now?
They're so not ready. Yeah, they're not ready.
But this is brilliant though, Bill. You're right. They could have turned on him and made it be him and to focus on him and not the president. And they didn't do that. Instead, they all get into, so what? There was a quid pro quo or whatever it is they do.
Yeah, they're walk by and trying to tamp it down and trying to put the fire out. But I'm sorry, that initial raging bear and the missed opportunity on the Democrat side would have been the thing that I did a little earlier about pointing out the gravity of what he said, because the way he said it was light and cheery. But what happened is that did you know, or do you know now that that's against the law? So you first start there.
Oh, because then you get him to either say yes or no. He's got to answer that question one
Do
way
you
or
know that
another.
is? Do you know that? Do you know that's against the law? Do you know that's against the Constitution? Do you know that that's not something you're supposed to do in the Constitution?
And
Now all of a sudden, the missed opportunities. Now all of
nobody
a
ever
sudden,
did that. Nobody
no,
bothered to say that. And to
no.
me, that's astounding. I know. It's
And that's what
astounding.
I do.
Oh
I
my
just hold my
gosh.
hands over like this.
Yeah,
Like,
you got to go watch the video, folks, to see Bill's expression there because it's priceless. But that's astounding because all that, you know, the Republican talking points have been, you know, quid pro quo or not. First of all, they've all used that word so much that it loses its impact and its meaning. And people, the impact of the word quid pro quo, which is hard enough to say, and I think it's also not necessarily clearly understood what that really means to people. Is like, yeah, quid pro quo. I've heard that a bunch of times. I don't really know what it means. I
yeah,
don't really care. But if the Democrats had illuminated, do you understand that doing that is against the law? It is against the Constitution. And get him to say yes or no. Either he says, no, I didn't understand that, still says, well, guess what? That's the law. Or if he says, yes, he understood it. Okay, so it is the law. One way or another, it illuminates the
and
law.
did anyone tell you that it it might have been? Did the attorney, did
Giuliani.
Giuliani, see, look at how I'm doing my pause. Did did Mr. Giuliani mention that this strategy and tactic was against the law? No, he didn't. So you just listen to it. Well, yeah. So I'm guessing as a businessman, you you might have used a deal making strategy called quid pro quo. Isn't that correct? Yes. Oh, so this is familiar to you. So it sounds like you just brought your business principles and put them into government. Is that correct? He goes, well, yeah, that's my greatest skills. Now, what you've just done in this moment is that you've actually created an off ramp of a dead stop for Trump because, well, it sounds like then business skills don't necessarily translate to political skills or necessarily work in government as well. Is that correct? Yeah, I guess not. Because what did we just do? We elected a businessman
Businessman.
to be president. So it sounds like in business, people have a little bit more flexibility with the law because the law's not written that way. Isn't that correct? Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's why government holds a different standard than business does. Oh, it does? Yeah, because there's the line between it's not illegal and it's not ethical. The ethical is where the government stands. The illegal is what the courts do. So you could do a lot of things in business between illegal and unethical and get away with all kinds of stuff called excessive drug prices, mergers and acquisitions that carpet the market. You can
Or
do
just
all kinds of
exert
stuff.
all kinds of levers, leverage, pressure, whatever,
Pressure,
to incentivize people to make a different decision or do things. They're not
right?
illegal. They may not be in alignment with
Ethics. Yep.
yeah, ethics, but they're not illegal. But when it comes to government and US foreign policy and, you know, the murky waters of meeting your own needs at the expense of America's needs.
Yeah. See, here's another way to think about this same scenario. Let's suppose I'm a chemical company and I have something that initially it was approved to be safe, and then all of a sudden we discovered that it wasn't safe anymore. And now I got to clean up the mess in it. And the government realizes it and puts a law in place and says, you got to clean it up. And this is the fine if you don't clean it up. And the company goes, here you go. There's the fine.
Yeah.
Because guess what? It costs more money to clean it up than it does to pay the fine.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, it's like, well, you paid us the money. Now the government has got to cover the distance between you broke the law to the ethical, we need to clean up this river. See, the government now has to pay for that because ethics and integrity is being spent here. So we have a complex system, but most people don't know the nuances that you and I are talking from right now of how to communicate honesty and truth towards, these specific narratives.
Well, and a way to get the listener, the public, the other side, whatever you want to say, the way to get people to understand truth without just saying this is the fact.
Correct.
And that's the difference, because that's what I think what the Democrats are doing that is tragic and regrettable in these hearings and all that is they are, did you do this? Yes. Did this happen? Yes. Did this happen? No. And it's just left as a fact. But what you did is something different. It's like, did you understand that that was not in alignment with the law? Did you understand that the Constitution says that that is improper at minimum, if not, downright illegal?
That's right. Yes.
That is a different thing. It's a nuance to truth that helps make the point and helps it land, right?
It helps it land. Well, the idea is the closer we stay to our observations, the closer we stay to the evaluations and stay away from labels and diagnoses and criticisms and blames and shame sentences. I mean, the closing argument or the closing statement, you could really see Adam Schiff, I want to say tear up, but it was a little more powerful. It was his whole body was upset because you could see in the fiber of his body the need for integrity and respect for the country and the damage that this is doing by them not coming clean and doing things this way is really problematic to his body. And because he's feeling the disheartened, the disgust, the anger, the aggravation, the irritation, while he's trying to hold the space of running a very clean, tight, I'm not letting you guys go sideways because you've been doing this and it is damaging to us now. We are in a very critical place. And for him to try to hold in and hold the weight of both parties, because he's holding the weight of both. He's holding the weight of the nation and his party and the Republicans that are coming into and getting the casualty of this experience. It's and he's really, it's really, really hard to have so many of his needs not being met and watch him go through that. It was very difficult. Yeah.
Well, and the thing that he really has been saying as it wrapped, and then even on the Sunday morning, talk shows after the last hearing happened, he was out on the circuit and saying, we have enough evidence. There's enough direct evidence that the president, has committed, bribery, high crimes and misdemeanors, whatever, to justify him being impeached. And he may be right by the letter of the law that they've proven it. There's enough firsthand accounts, direct evidence that out there, but he has not done enough. And not just him, the entire Democratic side of the aisle has not done enough to convince the American people, or enough of them, that this is important. It's critical. It is,
So let's just shift that last sentence you said, convince. That's not what's needed to take place.
Okay.
What needed, but you're in the right ballpark. Really what needed to take place is that he is to focus on and get the American listener to capture the spirit of the law. See, there's the letter of the law, and then there's the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law contains ethics. The letter of the law doesn't.
So you can technically have broken the law, but all right, is that really worth going to all this trouble for and removing a president?
That's correct.
But then there's, who do we want to be as a nation?
That's the spirit of the law. Do we want to stand for this? And they've been letting him get away with stuff from day one, from everything the president did at the beginning, and the Republicans that were there with him signing all these things and taking a temporary compliance strategy that they did at the expense of the United States, mostly for wealthy people, but also for various different companies that depended upon the choices that they made at the expense of. So they've had a lot of things that they've just got, like, okay, so you put another $900 million in the military budget. Okay, what are we going to do? Vote against that? No. Is that our best money spent? No, it's not our best money spent. It's not our best money spent. Really isn't.
Right.
We got infrastructure problems way worse than, restoring a battleship that no one sees, and it's not going to help anybody. Just saying.
Yep.
So that's the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. It's like, what's most valuable? Anyways, so the next time that we get together, because this has been so fun to do.
It has. I've really enjoyed this. It's been helpful,
really good
to me,
really
and hopefully others too.
Yeah. So creating safety and doing that narrative, Tom, next time, whether it's healthcare or how do you fund things, or infrastructure, or college tuition, things like that. All of those things, we've got to get a way to have a safe discussion, so both parties and both individuals don't have to see it as adversarial, and they can have moments of cooperation. Say, okay, here's the issue. Here's how I think we need to get to it. Here's how you think we need to get to it. I don't know. Let's write something up in between so we can get to it in one way or another. And then we got a shot at it. So safety in how the people could talk to each other, because in a year's time, we're still going to have the narrative, whether or not he is going to whether he's reelected or not, the same narrative regarding, okay, now that he has not been reelected, what do we do to restore? Now that he's been elected again, what do we need to question or call upon ourselves as a people in order to, mitigate and stabilize, the nation that is being put against each other, or being divided. So, yeah.
Right. It's sort of getting away from, a perspective of we need to win, then more toward we need to work together and achieve something. Right.
Yeah. It's got to go back. Yeah. We got to back off this adversarial conversation.
I agree. Okay, Bill. Well, I look forward to that.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thanks.
Yep.
It's been fun.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.